Hello all, I'm just here to check in on my students and so forth, and schedule some sessions and reply and reach out, that kind of thing, and see if you guys have any questions. I think I've done this 3 times, so maybe this is pretty cold in here, so I'm trying to blanket up. It's rather cold. I've done this a few times, requested questions, and haven't gotten much in the way of feedback. So I did get one question typed to me, so I think I'll answer that first. But I'll give you a few moments here in case you do that. Another couple thoughts, and feel free to comment on those. I thought maybe I'd do because I don't think this is going to really work, this generic Q&A. It doesn't seem like there's the interest. So maybe I'll try a Q&A that's a little more focused, like Q&A about a topic, meditation, practice, kung fu, self-defense, philosophy, whatever. And then maybe a little bit more focused in terms of the Q&A would help people see how they can interact. But of course, more focused means it's going to meet less people where they are. So my original intention here is like a very broad, just generic questions, but that hasn't really panned out. So I don't know if narrowing it is going to help us find the audience, and maybe narrowing it is just a way in which I express the persistence, and maybe the persistence itself of kind of returning to this is what helps it take off. And if it doesn't, we'll move on. Another thought I had, which I did get responses to, is just to kind of ponder aphorisms. And so I got a bunch of people that posted some quotes and sort of their favorite bits of wisdom, and I thought I'd kind of read those and hi Nadine, and talk about it, challenge it, do some teachings on it, kind of use it as a little springboard to whatever this crazy mind may do. So that is another idea, and I feel like that will happen, maybe even today, but I certainly got responses, so that's an option. I'm going to make a note of where that so that I can find it. I have this growing document of every streamed lesson or streamed, whatever offering, as well as pre-tape segments that I've been doing since this kind of new world. So I have kind of a long list. So I thought I'd make a little note to myself about where this last one was. Okay, so that's pretty good. So if you have a question and you'd like to type it, that'd be cool. You can also just post a question to me, like text me or message me if it's a little more personal, then I can address those questions, without in an anonymous fashion, anonymous for the asker. As I've said before, my kind of vision here is that people might ask questions that they think would benefit others by seeing, just the question. Never mind what I, add to or take away from it. So the idea isn't to seek the answers, but to share in the value of a good question. So you may have a question that you have an answer for, you have thoughts on, but you think others will benefit from hearing just the question, planting that seed for them. And so that was what I was envisioning would be a really nice reason to post questions. But as I've said, it seems like regardless of my hopes or dreams, if you will, we haven't been seeing it too much. So I made a save here, I think, of a question. I want to see if we get that. Great post. Jeremy. Yeah, so Darren asked a question, so I thought I would address this. He asked it in a Facebook thread. And the question is, did you study hard or external styles before discovering soft internal styles? And there's more to the question. But did you go hard external before discovering soft internal? If so, how does it affect your training? And so the short answer is no. My path was a path of questioning the world, worldviews, our existence, this place, these energies, this experience, and that, this is a longer story, but I'm trying to focus on the answer for you a bit. And that led me to an interest in Taoism. And then I thought, well, how do I study Taoism? Obviously there's going to be a fancy hat or a special building to go on a certain day every week, or just like any other kind of outfit. And then in looking at it, I realized that, well, really Taoism is inviting us into an experience with nature. It's inviting us into the physical, into the substantial realm, the place of the body, not the spirit or the mind that we might see in other religions or philosophies. And while Taoism isn't asking us to set those aside, it isn't really the prime catalyst for our apprehension, or to grasping. And so I thought, okay, well, it doesn't sound like the way to Taoism is going to be a book or sitting at the feet of some master or putting on, the special outfit and hat, or growing my hair a certain way, It seems to me that Taoism is going to be about my body, at least at the introductory phase. And I said, well, okay, how do the Taoists do that? And that's where I found Tai Chi, or Tai Chi Chuan, or both. And so that was my path, to begin with Tai Chi Chuan. And here we are. Since then, I've never let go of Tai Chi Chuan. That's still my root art, my base art, my everyday art, probably primarily how I'm seen by people as some kind of Tai Chi person. But I've had an opportunity to study other things for example, Kung Fu and Silat, certainly Yi Chuan, Qigong, Neigong, the Neja Chuan arts. So those sort of things, the Eskrima Daga, and Aikido, each of those things has been a study for me in those arts, but primarily the function of them has been for me to help broaden and deepen my understanding of Tai Chi Chuan. And so while, I like Aikido all by itself, and I think it's amazing, and I think it's a amazingly sophisticated base philosophy, at its sort of its soil. Sorry, I got an itch in my nose. And I do appreciate it and enjoy it for what it is on its own terms. But I also know that the reason that I'm doing this is to enrich my Tai Chi Chuan studies and understandings, and thereby enrich my ability to convey Tai Chi Chuan to my students, and thereby enrich my ability to understand Tai Chi Chuan for myself, and thereby enrich my understanding of the Tao. So for me, it was always internal first, which is something of a rarity in the West. We very often see somebody that began with Taekwondo or some karateka shifting into softer arts as their maybe wisdom increases or body declines, perhaps. And so we kind of have seen that story quite a bit. So anyway, Darren, the rest of his question was, if so, how does it affect your training? So really I can't answer that part because I didn't do hard before soft. But of course, the way that I did it did affect my training. One of the things that I would say that going soft, I see you, John Starr. Hello, sir. Dr. Starr can't hear me. Can other people hear me? Can you just type in and say yes or no? I'm assuming it's something on your end, my dear friend John. I'm not using a microphone or anything, and I'm 2 feet from the iPad, so I wouldn't expect there's a problem with the output. But anyway, I'll keep, thank you, Nancy, I see that. If anybody else, yes or no, that would help. Maybe, John, you can just exit and then return, and maybe it'll click for you, or close Facebook and reopen. I don't know. So anyway, how does it affect my training? I'd say probably helping inculcate the values of the internal arts at a base level. Those really stay there with me, even when I'm doing something a little bit more external, or like my Kung Fu style is this hybrid internal-external style. And so it helps me really with the way in which I receive the lessons, the way in which I value the lessons, like sort of what's important to me in the art, is the how I'm doing the thing, not the end result. So I don't have this mindset of transactionality. I do not have any sense of my job in any regard is breaking things. So I feel like what I'm doing is a constructive thing, not a destructive thing. So it feels to me like it's completely different than the idea of, let me break this board, which, the 12-year-old boy in me think, it would be cool and that'd be fun and wouldn't I look awesome? And my ego is, yeah, let's do this. But I feel like what's to be gained in destruction? And so maybe studying an internal art helps me kind of shape that. But on the other hand, maybe it's just who I was, and that helped me fit into that internal art and find it to feel like home. And the studying of the internal art didn't change my view at all. It just supports it or cradles it. I can't say. So Darren and I had a little back and forth, and I see you there, by the way. Okay, I'm glad you could join us. We had a little back and forth, and he said, oh, okay, I thought he added to the question there. So, or you, I should say you, it looks like you're here now. So he just typed something here, so I'm going to read that because maybe it's of the three treasures of the Jing Qi Shen, the three treasures of the Tao, compassion, humility, and frugality. Which do you struggle with the most? Well, as a martial arts teacher, I don't have to struggle with frugality. That's, if it's like struggle to achieve, it's sort of covered. Humility, I guess, don't really have to struggle to achieve that either, because as a fairly connected martial artist, I travel a lot and have students all over the world and kind of pretty well make friends with a lot of different artists. It's very easy for me to see what I don't have. We were just talking about this with a student of mine this morning, and he had a really interesting, introductory sort of challenge for a conversation. And anyway, where it got us to was, I said, I don't know if I can reach it. I had it right here, but at any rate, I'll find a tape, like a VHS tape or an 8mm tape or a, cuneiform tablet. It could be an old flyer for like a workshop I was doing, or just a flyer like come study Tai Chi with me. And like here's my latest flyer, right? And like I look at them like I just made this, like man, that says it all. That's clean and simple, and that's it. But I'm thinking, like in 15 years, 5 years, and 30 years, I'm gonna look at that and say, oh, I can't believe I called it that. I can't believe I emphasized that. Why would I have? And I don't just mean like font and layout or photo choice, but just like, really, you thought that was important? You made that, of seemingly of greater importance than that, or you called it that instead of this. Like why'd you call it Tai Chi instead of Tai Chi Chuan? It's not Tai Chi. And anyway, so I'll look at like a video of myself, and the video is something that I put out for my students to study at home and sold them, and so this means like I put on like a clean shirt or like silks, and I waited till the light was right and we hit record and I did it, but then I wobbled that tiny little bit there before shoulder stroke. So I said, just start it again. Like, no problem, I'm the teacher, I gotta do this well. So we recorded again, and then maybe I missed my footwork a tiny bit, it's not quite square. So that's fine, no problem, hit record, yes, no problem. Do that a few times until I get, man, this is representative, this is Tai Chi, this is me, this is worth showing students, this is for sale. In other words, here's my best effort, right? So now I've come across that old DVD or CD or VHS or whatever it might be, or business card or flyer, and I'll look, at what I've said or what I've done, and I'll just be like, okay, that's horrible. You didn't understand anything. Why would you have done that? You should always do this there, or the shoulder should melt instead of settle, or the elbows aren't all that buoyant, or whatever it is, right? The eyeballs don't go there on that move. And I look at it and I say, okay, that's fine. That's what I do for a living. I look at people do their Tai Chi Chuan, and I notice the mistakes, and then they pay me and I correct them, right? But then when I look at myself, it's not just seeing somebody's mistake, but it's like, well, that's his best effort. He had the ability to hit delete, 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 delete until he got a good take. And then he sold that, right? Or gave it away or whatever. But he passed that on and off and out as a fine version of like his efforts. Right? So when we think about, the treasures, and one of them being humility, like, man, it's so easy, And so my student's question today was like something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing, how often do we have to look back at our previous selves and and think, boy, you got that all wrong, buddy. And he said, how long do we have to do that until we realize that in this very now, we're busy thinking that this is exactly right or perfect or as it should be, So anyway, the humility doesn't seem to be a big challenge, and I can say, since I get to pontificate here, we're doing this sort of no deadline talk. For me, I make quite a great effort to police any possibility of neutrifying the ego in this line of work. Not that I'm perfect at it or always intercept it well, or notice that it could be nipped in the bud, but I definitely make this effort to police it. Like, I don't let people introduce me as anything other than Steve. People I'm at a place and we'd like to introduce, and it's title and accomplishment, followed by title and accomplishment, and I just cut them off, and if I can, I'll grab the mic or interrupt, and it's just Steve, it's Steve. My mom named me that. It's worked out fine for all these years. And that's like an example of like my trying to police that arrival of the ego. And so I'm looking out for things that might get my ego to dais height, and not feed them, right? Or choke them off for air, or intercept them, or digress, or what have you. And I feel like I've been fairly successful with that. Like, it's a long-term effort. I'm sure it's just ongoing for my whole life. But I'm not going to name my school after myself. It's not about my name. I don't have a bunch of trophies up. That's just, I don't feel like that's going to ultimately support my insight, growth, and understanding if I'm busy feeding the ego here. Now, that still happens anyway. We can't be perfect, but I'm just talking about my aim and my intention, and perhaps some, success there, maybe just through persistence. So frugality, kind of covered. I do this professionally. This is all I do. It's all I have done for, I don't know, 25 years, something like that. Yeah, 25 years. So that's kind of covered. And I guess I could talk an awful lot as a topic, frugality, like, I don't like raise the prices for students, but like every 5 years or something. And then, and even then, not without a lot of heartache and long letter to everybody to explain the realities of life. And I certainly don't feel like I charge as much as I could. So there's a lot of ways to consider frugality. Of the three treasures of the Tao, compassion is one of them, and I talked about humility and frugality. So I would say probably compassion is the one I struggle with the most. And it wouldn't have, if the question had been, do you struggle with compassion? I probably wouldn't have said, yeah, I particularly struggle with it. But my choice here is the three, so I'm going to say probably compassion, because I feel like it's very hard to view the world, a circumstance, an experience, an expression of the world, certainly another person or people's, with discernment that doesn't become judgment. And I think that where we have judgment as the soil, we won't have the seed of compassion sprout. And so while I think that it's reasonable, appropriate, healthy to discern, to do more than that and to have that discernment become judgment, I think that's where we have compassion. So while I endeavor to feed compassion and seek the sort of tendrils of connection that lead to compassion, I have like a daily practice I do, maybe two that I guess would be compassion centric or devoted to the wellspring and soil of compassion. I certainly probably mess up quite a bit, maybe more often than not, and the judgment happens before I'm aware of it, and now I'm trying to backtrack or not give this sprout an awful lot of sun so it doesn't make it, even though I kind of started it. That's probably the toughest one. I'm going to scroll if there's other questions or if I've missed it. It looks like other people have joined. Hey, Janet, hooray. Hi, Sensei Tong, you're here again. I'm so glad. I hope that you're doing well up there, Janet. I went up to Middletown last week and I did I guess a personal, private, solo healing practice for the students up there at the college, just in the vicinity of our where we had done our Tai Chi class, just to kind of offer some healing to this world. So I was thinking about you like 4 days ago or something. We're up there. It looks like maybe Nancy put a question up here, and I see Drew. Hello, sir. Darren, please let me know if I got your question fairly answered, and if you have time. I know you probably have work to get to, and I'll probably find that. I'm going to read Nancy's question aloud, but first warm my insides. So thank you for the questions. This is what I had in mind. Thank you. So Nancy, who you guys should all be friends, she's a really sweet soul. I think I met her when we were both crowding around a fellow doing a Bagwazhang practice at a tournament in Queens, New York. I think that's where we actually met. I'm wondering if we met here first and then we met in person, or the other way around. These days, you can meet people virtually or in reality, and I definitely forget. So her question, for me, my first 15 years was only Tai Chi. So from the time she was born till she was 15 years old, she did Tai Chi. I thought of it as soft and yin. Then I met my Shinny teacher, who I think is Mark, that she's talking about. Then I met my Shinny teacher and began learning Shaolin, which I'm guessing she means Shaolin Kung Fu, Shinny Chuan Bagwazhang, thinking that those were hard arts. So she had done Tai Chi for 15 years. She took up with this other teacher, doing these Neijia Chuan and Shaolin Kung Fu arts that she thought were hard by comparison to her Tai Chi. Turns out my Shifu focused on internal practice. My soft art was really not internal, and my hard art became very soft and internal. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's kind of how it should go. Yeah, so here she's saying my hard art became very soft and internal. My bet is that she doesn't actually believe the later arts were hard. I think she's just saying hard art to help us internally reference in her sentence which art she's talking about, perhaps so she doesn't have to type them all again. And I find that typing Xingyi Bagua and the like in Facebook takes a very long time, not because they're long words, but you have to fight the spell check a bunch of different times. That's what tends to happen to me. So I'm thinking that she probably doesn't actually understand them to be hard. She finds them to be soft and internal, which I think is appropriate and fair and good for you. And then the challenge really becomes in trying to relate your experiences to other people who already have a maybe more fixed view that those particular arts are hard, or are always hard, or are relatively hard. And so you have to kind of, in order to converse, you have to accept that. And once you accept it, then you can say, accept that mine is actually leaning towards and shifts towards and emphasizes this and that. So my bet is that where there is some conflict, maybe, it's really just in communicating to others outside of your art, because they come with their own prejudices and expectations and prior understandings, whereas you're not actually internally conflicted when you're practicing, when you're thinking about your art, when you're with your fellow students, when you're studying with your teacher. This is just what it is, and it's soft and internal. Now, the other part of that is that you were essentially saying that by comparison, your Tai Chi was really not internal. might not have been, right? So it might not have been the very best style of Tai Chi maybe for you, or the very best teacher fit for you. And not to say they're not a good teacher, but maybe just not a good fit for you. But it's also quite likely, I see this very often, that it wasn't, so let's just assume great teacher and a really good fit for you, that particular style of Tai Chi or style of teaching Tai Chi and that teacher, right? So we'll say, just so we're imagining it, the location was perfect. It was across the street from your house. It was $1 a month, right? Or the teacher gave you $1 every class, right? And it was like a enlightened, ingenious teacher, and the particular methodologies of teaching and sharing, and as well as the whole classroom student body was just perfect fit for you. So here we have a case of it is an internal art. It is soft, it is internal, and everything's perfect for you. It can be that who you are for those 15 years, or maybe just 15 years ago for some time, this isn't ready for that, isn't ready to accept it, isn't ready to see it, isn't ready to adopt it, isn't ready maybe to believe it, isn't ready to integrate it. So very often I'll see people that they agree, let's say, with the internal point of view, as if it's monolithic, but they agree with the internal point of view here, but they can't really integrate it, adopt it, let it in. They can't let it become them. And even though they're talking about, well, this makes the most sense philosophically, and this is sensible and medically, and all the different takes they have, they still don't actually start doing it, right? And I say, so where have you been? Why don't you come to class? It doesn't have to be my class. Why don't you start studying? I have my 6th Dan test coming up for Karate Do, and I really should do that because my Supreme Grandmaster told me this and that. I said, well, that's fine, but you were just telling me how absolutely the best thing for your knees or your back or your immune system or your lifestyle or for your view on life, for example, is like to do this Tai Chi Chuan stuff, and yet they still don't pick it up. So it could be everything was perfect for you and the Tai Chi was, I forgot how you put it, soft, let's say, or internal. Maybe it was, but you weren't ready to let that in, like a Cadbury egg, like the outside was hard and that's as far as you got. Even though it was 15 years, which sounds like a sizable amount of time, you might not have cracked that and you didn't find that soft, gooey center. But it's also possible it wasn't such a great teacher, or wasn't such a great methodology, or wasn't a very good understanding of Tai Chi. It was sort of Tai Chi-like movements that were taught by some, I just don't know the background. In other words, you could let yourself off the hook. The way you might find this out is go back to that style now with what you've learned from your Neja Chuan and Shaolin Kung Fu teacher and teachings, who you've become now, and re-examine that Tai Chi, whether by going to a class, checking with the teacher, or just kind of recovering what you remember, and see, maybe you have the spectacles now, you have the prescription lenses by which to more readily see what was always soft and internal. So could be fun anyway. So I'm going to scroll here because I don't know if I've answered anything. Hey Lynn, hello. How are you? I hope that you're holding up these days, and I expect that your push hands is only improving, as is your everything else that's great about you. So Darren returned. We were talking about humility, compassion, and frugality, and Darren says, for me, it's frugality, not so much with money, but with wasting the time and overindulging food. Yeah, so that's cool. You just sort of typed the words, and we weren't having a regular conversation. I didn't quite know what you meant by frugality, so I just took it to talk about money and maybe be a little bit, self-effacing or fun, just to simplify that. But yeah, like when we look at the teachings of the Tao, for example, what we're looking at is this middle way, right? We're not looking at maybe like an ascetic Confucian point of view. We're not really looking at a more hedonistic Buddhist point of view. We're looking at this middle way, this middle path. And so in that regard, I wouldn't think of it as how little can you use or eat or time or food or whatever the focus of the frugality is. Because I think probably frugality we're on the sort of poverty side, and then great riches and hedonistic views over here. So I don't know that I would opt for the translation frugality, in that it seems very hermit-like and ascetic, and therefore very unlikely to be accessible for people. So it may be as relative frugality, or certainly something more moderated, something middle path. And I'll tell people, especially these days, I'm doing a whole lot of ministering, and people will be talking about, a funeral they couldn't attend because of the social distancing, or their wife is on the ventilator now because of the COVID virus, or people are separated from their kids because of social distancing and a prior divorce and custody kind of stuff. Like, pretty heart-wrenching and difficult things. And in my mind, it's like, well, I know the answer here. Like, connect to the moment, experience your senses. You're just here in this breath now. Serve others, check in on your posture, return to your meditation practice, like all these, here's what you should do kind of answers. But I'll also say, you know what, too? Like, you need to probably spend a little bit of time venting a bit of steam, as long as it's not destructive. Ideally, if it's constructive, that'd be nice. But as long as it's not destructive, you should definitely have a beer on Friday and complain for a couple hours to your 3 friends on Zoom that you went to high school with, and complain about, the politics and the economy and your boss and your sister-in-law and the stupid mask that hurts your face, and the grocery store person who didn't let you come in because of the time. Like, that's healthy, right? It can be done in a healthy way. And so, but this is a question of, I think, like, that middle path. Like, ultimately, would those 2 hours have served the world if you were in the soup kitchen serving people that were less privileged than you? Yes, it would have. But there's also you to take care of. Now, if you have that 6-hour session with your Zoom friends, and you're on your second 6-pack of beer, and now you're going to oversleep and not take your kid to the park in the morning, and drag through the meeting on Zoom with your committee in the morning, and then maybe be a little bit short-tempered through tomorrow afternoon. Okay, you've went on the spectrum a little bit too far. So I would say, well, yeah, the healthy thing to do is check in on your practice, check in on your neighbor, breathe, feel this moment, have some meditation, devote yourself to your discipline, check in on the underprivileged. But to some extent, and in some balance, and for not too long, it's really good, to watch a 30-minute basic waste of time on your Netflix or something, because this is just going to make me laugh, and it's not important, but it is important to spend a half hour laughing. Live streaming 8.5 hours of it, probably overindulging, right? So now we're out of frugality, or a modulated connection to the offerings of the world. So I'm often telling people, like, it's still okay to, spend a couple hours, let's say once a week, and complain to your friends and swear a little bit, and be a little bit grumpy, and write a letter to the editor that and rail against the system. That's okay, particularly if it's constructive. but in no case if it's destructive. And then overall, not too much. But that doesn't mean never and not at all. So that's my take on sort of frugality in terms of that sort of. So we could have said, I was talking about sort of your emotions and stuff like that, but that could have to do with food. I guess I was talking about time a little bit, so you said wasteful of time. And the same thing with food, like you should be eating sensibly, whether that's economically or in terms of healthy food and so forth. But also, you know what? I mean, you grew up with Snickers and somebody brought one to the thing and like, you know what? Have a Snickers on Sunday. Like, yeah, it was really, cool. I'm so glad I enjoyed that. And like, that's fine. It doesn't mean you have to take it and then feel guilty and run an extra 5 miles tomorrow or anything else. But it does mean you don't say, well, that wasn't too bad. I'll have a Snickers every day. So finding that balance. But that's Taoism, right? So I'm going to scroll here. I don't know. And Nancy's getting, it's funny, it's like Drew and Nancy, I'm kind of going back and forth. Yeah, so we did meet at the Queen's Tourney first. Okay, I feel like you were wearing red too, and it was a red t-shirt, maybe a school t-shirt or something, but that's what I have in my head. Darren says, we are all works in progress, So keeping in mind that balance, while that's a fine thought, I'm just adjusting my feet here, while that's a fine thought, I would propose that we're also all plays in progress. Not necessarily a 3-act play, but play as contrasted to work. I think that's really, or a play in process. In fact, I'm going to write that and then I will that's a typo. Oh, cool. Okay, well, they were hard for me to do too. Trying to remember what Nancy's talking about here. They were hard for me to do too. She's probably relating to something I was speaking about a few minutes ago. Grandmaster Li Taliang always tells us we need both soft and power and work inside. So I imagine she's contrasting soft and power there. And I don't know if that's like a paraphrase or quote from Li Tianliang, but I would say that I would not put soft and power on sort of ends of a spectrum. Soft is powerful, or powerfulness can be soft. I'm responding to a student here, sorry. All right, good. So I had a few people in suicidal places, so like whatever else I'm doing, I gotta check in. So I would, and again, I'm not trying to challenge their words or certainly their meaning, because I don't know if that's a quote or paraphrase or what they meant or if I'm understanding what you wrote. But at any rate, I wouldn't put soft and power in two different places. Power can be soft or hard, or obviously anywhere in between. But I think I basically understand the idea of like, can we be sort of Tai Chi or can we be karate? And I think the argument meaning we want both. We want to have sort of an ability to demonstrate receptivity and an ability to demonstrate, let's say offering. I don't know if she says in work inside, meaning like internal work, if that's what you mean, I agree. These days we're probably all working inside if we can, or at home. So feel free to, clarify that, yay. Students from Hawaii to Momentum. The teacher was a student of BB Chan. Yay, BB Chan. Hooray. and was good for what he was teaching. So I think Nancy's talking about that Tai Chi teacher for 15 years, a student at BB Chan, maybe somebody I know then, and was good for what he was teaching. He taught stillness, balance, flow, basics. And yeah, she's saying I wasn't ready for more at the time. And that sounds like what you learned from BB Chan: stillness, balance, flow, basics. Like, you know, I had a lot of classes in that system. And yeah, it's just basics, 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 Yi Chuan standing, Zhan Chuan kind of stuff, drill, drill, drill. Not an awful lot of here's the next form, here's the 57th move in the next form, just back to the basics. So not even back to the basics, just we're still at the basics. There's nowhere to go back to, we never left. Hey, Darren says, now I feel much better. That's perfect, we should end there if we got somebody feeling better. Hey, Maureen, I too was a student at BB Chan. Yay, BB Chan. That's great. Still follow his principles and so grateful for the chance to keep learning and sharing. Stay warm, stay safe. Oh, that's very kind. Thank you, Maureen. Yeah, BB Chan is, quite special. I had a chance to work in that system as well as William Chen, so I kind of feel like a nice taste of that location. He would say together, soft, hard, together. Yeah, so that those are just his words then, soft, hard, since you've repeated them, which is, totally fine. I just wouldn't accept those words. I don't think the distinction is between soft and hard. So for example, I can be soft-hearted, soft in the mind. I can be soft in my receiving. I can be fluid, which can be experienced as soft while I'm, punching really hard or kicking or something like that. And certainly, we can demonstrate from a very, let's say, supple, relaxed, maybe, what we might consider a Tai Chi Chuan place, and actually develop a lot of oomph or a lot of power, like you see at Fajin or something, and somebody would sort of colloquially and reasonably just call that hard, because they're really describing their experience with it. So the story that somebody goes away with might not be the story of my expression. So my expression might be a story of relaxation and slowness, and their story, having, received the impact and gotten whatever it was broken or something, they might have a very different story of it. And those are both fair takes on what happened, but neither one really fully explains the whole of the experience. All right, thank you, Darren. Appreciate your time and your questions, really, really do. So this has been a lot more fun than the previous ones, so that's definitely good. Yeah, Nancy, this is hard to communicate, trying like that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but I could see that you were using, hey, Sifu Phillips is here. I should mention that this edition of Q&A from Someday Farm is brought to you by William C. Phillips's book, In the Presence of Chen Ben Cheng, available now at fine retailers everywhere. So please reach out for your copy. Thank you, Bill. And then we'll do an interesting edit where that book kind of goes away. Good, okay. That's fun. Yeah, so again, if particularly if you have somebody, Li Telang isn't particularly interested, that's an unfair way to put it, isn't English as a first language, or isn't perhaps as interested as somebody like me in really choosing the most appropriate word for the situation, you'll have people just say hard and soft, or power or soft or whatever it was. And that's completely reasonable, particularly if what their intention is fairly gets communicated to those they're speaking with or writing to, such as their students. So in that case, it's fine. Like, you can say anything you want if you communicate to one another. But as I'm really interested in getting the language as good as I'm able, and I'm also aware that we're having this conversation in front of possibly, millions of people, or whoever eventually sees this, I want to clarify so that I don't just accept a term and repeat it, in which case it kind of arrives maybe with my imprimatur, and it fails to offer people the opportunity to consider their choice of words and the meaning that gets delivered along with them. So it's been my understanding that there was not an internal art that described itself as an internal art. It was a term used to compare what we now call an internal art to an external art by an external artist. And it looks like Mark, who we were just speaking about, has just joined in. So I just waved to him, hello, hello, hello. So I'm going to see if there's any other questions, and I'm going to just check back in with the student here while I'm here. Got a bunch of filters delivered for masks this morning for a student that's making, I think, I forgot what you said now, but a couple thousand masks. So that's pretty cool. Good. And as I was saying, I think I'm going to ponder some aphorisms on another one of these. But I'll probably, since I'm sitting here, I'll probably get up and record a practice session here. I don't know if I'll live stream it, record it for other people later. Okay, that's for me to do now. Charlie's here. Hello, how are you? I hope you and Krista are doing well. I don't know if you have any of your daughters staying at home with you or everybody's off on their own, but I trust that you're well. I'm just checking in on people here, and until there's a question, I don't need to blather for no reason. So. It must be really exciting watching me check in on the old people, but very grateful for those questions. Thank you. I think I'm going to practice with a little Hanuman Chalisa today. I think that'd be a nice thing to do. So, particularly questions whose mere asking you think may possibly help others that are listening. That'd be what I'd be quite excited about. Good. Good. I wouldn't mind hearing from people if you have particular things that you are wanting more of or less of, or even maybe you have a new idea. I've been doing these Q&As. I've been doing practice sessions. I've been doing entire classes. I've been doing warm-ups. I've been doing poetry readings. I've been doing poetry readings. I've been doing philosophy readings, readings with the fuzzies. Trying to remember what other type of sort of category of thing. But if you have some thoughts about what I've been doing, like, oh, I really want more of that, or not so much of that, that's not working, be great to hear from you, you know. Please do more of that, or here's an idea you might want to try. I'm trying my best to connect to as many people as I can while we're all separate in the ways that I've thought of that I might actually be productive. I don't know if sort of trying to teach a form is going to be all that helpful digitally, so I haven't done too much of that kind of thing. But at any rate, that's what I'm thinking. There are questions about discipline, questions about practice, questions about Kung Fu, questions about meditation, questions about Qigong, questions about Aikido, questions about Xingqian, questions about Bagozhang, questions about Yichuan, questions about Neigong, questions about Weigong, questions about Neijiachuan, if I said that in Weigong, questions about Tai Chi Chuan, questions about sitting practice, questions about breathing, questions about stretching, questions about philosophy. These are some of the things that I do. So just type into the comments a question or send me a question to my phone or email if you'd rather have it anonymous, something I can address. But otherwise my plan is simply to reply to who I can reply to, and when I'm done with that, if there's no question, I don't see that there's much of a reason for me to stay on the stream. For example, Darren had sent me the question in a thread elsewhere on Facebook, so when I logged in, I knew I had one question, that I could address. And Nancy asked a question with some follow-ups, so I really appreciate that. But I also don't want to presume I am needed or that this is needed. It is just my idea. Yeah. Good. Yeah, still no questions, so I'm just at the end of this little list of people to check in on and read replies from. good. Stroke and acupuncture nerve repair. Doo-doo-dee. Okay, we're about done with that. I will scroll back to see if I missed a question, but I don't believe I did. In which case I will be saying thank you, and I will you can continue to write questions after I end this. I expect I'll see them afterwards, and I can reply to them on the next one, if there is a next one. So my expectation is I won't do a next one unless I have some prior, some questions that were submitted prior to my going live, so I don't just sit here and babble to myself, which I can do all by myself. But I'm just waiting for that reply. Quick scroll through my Patreon. I don't know if that's backwards for you guys or not, but there's a zillion different sorts of things we've been offering. I don't know however many hundreds we have up there, but check us out. I guess I'll show you the page so that you can find and follow. On the off chance that that's backwards and you can read through it, you could read it that way. But I don't know which way is legible for you guys on this front-facing camera. I think maybe that way, and that's actually backwards. I can read it now, and you can read it now. Yay, dark ink and bright light. Okay, scrolling to the end, and then hitting finish.